Hello, I'm Joey Greiner, and I'm here with Santiago Rafael. We are at the Assemblage in New York City, where we had an event on Friday night, which was a release for the book Ignite Your Life for Men, in which Santiago is a contributor, where he wrote a very interesting chapter about his life and his story. And we spoke to an excellent group at the Assemblage on Friday night. And we decided to do a follow-up talk because we wanted to get a little bit deeper into those topics that we talked about. And Santiago, can you please tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to participate in this compilation book about men's lives and what it means to be a man?
Yes, thank you, Joey. Thank you, Joey, for accepting this meeting. And I sense a great vibe in our talk the other day, so I wanted to make this follow-up to go in deeper. And well, as I'm presenting myself here in the book, I am founder of LaFam. It's a transformational education company.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I bring many resources that I have learned along the way, since the spiritual practices, the initiatic cultures, the medicine man, the shamanisms, the coaching, all the different things that I don't like to label me, but are there applied.
Yeah.
Also, what has helped me a lot to define myself has been this self-inquiry work, and through this book I could heal a lot of my story.
Mm-hmm.
So now I declare myself an artist of life, and in constant sculpting of a masterpiece of life, and releasing myself and others from the invisible prisons that we have in ourselves and around. So that's how I feel saying I am now.
That's beautiful. One of the things you said that just resonated with me right now is one of the topics that we went into on Friday of what it means to be a master. And one of the things that didn't come up in our conversation that you just mentioned was to chisel a masterpiece, because that's where the phrase masterpiece comes from, is after someone is apprenticed in a trade and they learn the skills, and then once they complete a certain work, whether it's a sculpture or building a house or whatever their trade is, that is their masterpiece that they made that shows them they are now a master.
Yes, this is I have been studying that. In initiatic cultures, we are to declare ourselves masters of our lives, since we put us in the spotlights. Otherwise, we can be a victim of reality. There's a spiritual teacher that says you can be a victim or a master. So are you ruling, are you sculpting, are you shaping matter? That's from where master comes, from matter. Are you a master of matter? Do you shape matter and make things happen for you? Or they are like imprisoning you?
They're happening to you.
Yes.
Yes, you're the master and you're controlling the matter, or the matter is happening to you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that happens with the mastery, and we put us in the center, in the eye of the storm, as would be known, and understanding the elements and having our virtues, our qualities, all our resources as a tool set for sculpting this reality. So what I like a lot of declaring myself a master is being tested. Being tested by things. Like the other day the talk is like, okay, are you talking about these important topics? Okay, come and pass the test. That's what really makes the graduation is the test, the sphinxes, as we say in initiatic cultures, that we passed on.
Absolutely, and the event the other night was a real trial by fire, because you were talking about the divine masculine, the divine feminine, to an audience mostly made up of women, and that was a very sensitive place that you could go. And it's a real test of your knowledge of this subject and your ability to respond with respect and honor to the women's questions, and to be able to acknowledge this subject matter in a way that is not offensive, but also very honest and true to the realities of the relationships of masculine energy and feminine energy, which are very different. And I think you made an excellent point on Friday that we need the polarity, we need the difference, so we can experience and appreciate each other. Because if we're all one and we're all the same, we don't understand, we don't appreciate if we have no other perspective. So I really loved when you brought up that we need that separation between the masculine and feminine to really appreciate the differences and in one another.
Yes, totally. And it was interesting because one of the men that came to the talk on Friday was leading a men's circle that suddenly became a mixed circle because women wanted to help us heal. So they came and became a mixed circle.
Yeah.
So he came to the talk and he told me, wow, you told really edgy things that if it wasn't you who told them, you would have many problems.
Yeah.
And it was like the way also how it was told, even with, there were many women, like it was 90%, 90 something percent women, and they came with their things. It's like, we have this has happened to us and in our ancestors, women has historically, and understanding that emotional baggage and charge that comes, and holding it, I think that requires this kind of tool sets that I am exposing myself, passing the trial. So I like this kind of things.
And you were still honoring the feelings, because what they're saying and feeling is not wrong, but it is from a certain point of view, from an understanding for a long time of how they're brought up and what they're raised to believe, and it's entirely valid to feel that way, but it's not the only way to think about that subject, and we need to be able to step back to see the other point of view, so we can all kind of come together and understand it better.
Yes, and in this sense, we can get trapped by that, what I call inertia. There's an inertia that charge becomes an inertia, so we just don't think about it. It just takes us, and that's one of the invisible prisons I'm talking in the book. We can be entrapped by that inertia, and for the ego makes the total justification. So I can do things as I want, or like I cannot take charge of my responsibility. I cannot take responsibility of my life now because of what happened to me. So that has been a narrative that I have heard a lot, and it's great that it comes up. Because we can show different ways and perspectives to unlock us and liberate us.
That goes back to am I the master of my life, or is my life happening to me? So in our culture, another topic that we got into on Friday, but would be great to elaborate more on, is that we don't have these rites of passage in our culture that some of these other civilizations have had in the past, and some other cultures do. You talked about initiatic cultures and a rite of passage where we hear the stories of a young boy who would be sent out into the wilderness with a spear and can't come back to the tribe until he's killed the lion, that kind of a thing. So that's the rite of passage, rite of initiation to become a man. And in our culture, we don't necessarily have these milestones where after we accomplish a task, we feel like a master, we feel like an adult in society, we feel like a man or a woman in our society.
And because of this lack of rites of initiations, we have huge problems. We have underestimated the importance of those milestones that build up on who we are, and that's why we have this crisis of not knowing how I am, if I am enough. Those are like crises like, what can I do if the fears of facing things that may be over myself, and we are super scared because we didn't have the build up until that maturation of our personality and our development. So we are like, we are just thinking that the first time I drink, I am belonging to whatever group, my high school group, or the biggest, like the first time I drink, the first time I kiss a girl, or I have sex, or those are like distorted ways that we are seeking as males to prove ourselves, but the bar, the line, the real trial is not clear. It's like just brought up.
Sure. Those are self-imposed rites of passage.
Yes.
Like they're completely artificial. There's once I kiss a girl or once I have sex, then I'm a man. That's completely out of your own mind, or maybe your small group of friends. There's your society isn't bringing you up to say once you do this, you're a man. That's it's completely artificial.
And even like it works really deeply in us, because we talked about biological components. We talked about the cultural components. Also, there are spiritual components. There's like it's not just a simple view of politics and morals. There are like many components that are playing into it. So the main awareness we can have on this is, okay, is this working automatically? It's like, why I'm doing this? Having power over that social contagion, that inertia, that fragility of the mind that makes us permeable to an ideology, or even another entity takes over us. So we are like not even slaves. We are possessed by something, by an idea. So that in a sense is the freedom I am aiming and also highlighting with my story. Because we can have really strong points, and not even thinking of sexuality, but also there are philosophies of life that veganism. I tell you, when I stopped eating meat, I had that struggle because there's a social pressure. It's like you have, as a man, you have to eat, an Argentinian man, you have to eat barbecue, el asado, how much you eat. So there's even a competition with my friends. I had competition of who eat more burgers, the biggest one, who can hold the most.
Yeah.
You know, like that thing.
I went through the same thing when I gave up meat. A lot of the people in my family were like, why are you doing that? It's not, is it being vegetarian a feminine thing necessarily, or just at the time it was not as accepted in the culture as it is now. It's much more common. That's a topic that I think is excellent, that over time people's perceptions have changed. Now when I tell people that I'm vegan, they're like, oh yeah, I don't eat as much meat. Whereas 15 years ago, people were like, why? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that social pressure, like in more the teachings I do, I explain like the Matrix, you know, like, have you seen the Agent Smith, that anyone that is plugged on that Matrix suddenly becomes a moderator.
Yeah, anything that you say or do that pushes people out of their comfort zone of what they describe as to be the right thing to do and how society works. Anytime you question their programming, people can be very uncomfortable and defensive.
Yes, and that's when we are taken by this natural programming, default programming, the script of the Matrix, as I like to say, and not being Matrix, because Matrix also comes from matrice. That is the matter. It's like the matter has over you, and you are not the one bringing the new things that shape it at will, because you overcome that. So I like that analogy of that. epiphanic movie. I highly recommend. If you have you seen The Matrix?
Of course, yeah, many times.
Yeah. So I think with this of the male that I think is lacking with the rites of initiations is that since we are hierarchical, the male are more in rising, like the rising and sustaining, and the women is like spreading and sinking. Like if we can define from the subtle the energies, we are the triangle, the upper triangle, like so. There's a necessary hierarchy. The problem is that it has been tweaked, the cognition of competition instead of competence. There's a difference between competition and competence. So we are supposed to have a hierarchy of competence, not competing to be in the hierarchy. That's a misconception that everybody's acting it. Everybody, I will cancel that. It's like we were playing that.
We should be aspiring to be the best, not just to compete to be on top.
Exactly. So that competition is when it's directed to a functional. It's like understanding what functions, what makes the competence to make that happen, instead of competing for the power to make things happen, because it's already implied when we are there, when we arrive to do the things at the best way that can be done, it's already implied that we have the power. And I like the initiatic cultures because in the Come Chingones, the tribes from Argentina, they say like, what about elections? It's like they cannot understand the concept of voting. It's like democracy, that's ridiculous. It's like voting. We all can see who is the most competent. It's like evidence. We don't have to vote. It's like there's a natural understanding of who is the best to do everything, anything, So there's no need to vote. There's a natural leaderships in the ones who behave in the daily lives. So also in the Incas, Inca is not the civilization, even that we know the civilization. Inca was the highest point of the hierarchy, and Inca meant love. So the governor, the governor as we know now, the highest in command was the most loving person, who represented the most love. That was the leader.
That's fantastic. I would love to see what our society today would look like if the person who loved the most was in charge.
Yes, and also there's a movie that I also give in the spiritual teachings that is Astral City, explains how it works in the astral plane. Also happens this: the leader, the governor, is the most loving person, the most gentle and kind and compassionate person. So it's a leadership by virtues, and that's what makes us the most competent, the embodied virtues. That's why I wanted to bring this talk. I felt the urge to bring this talk the other day, because getting us out of the patterns of I am masculine, I am feminine, and that duality that we were talking at the beginning, and bringing a third perspective of what is sacred.
Yeah.
And when we focus on what is sacred, like for example the Taoist path, the Taoist path, or the Buddhist, that they say, okay, no matter what, I will not be moved off my virtuous path, the noble path. So that makes us a better person no matter what. We are looking forward, we are looking towards.
Yeah, aspiring.
Yes.
To towards certain virtues,
Yes.
towards the path of
Yes.
that's outside of what's masculine or what's feminine. That there's the sense of higher purpose.
Yes.
I learned a really interesting fact yesterday about elite special forces that have something called it's passive leadership. So when they're on deployment in small groups, that no matter the hierarchy, whoever has the strongest sense to lead in that moment when they're deployed in battle. Everyone just falls in line. Everyone follows. Like, I have the gut instinct. I know. I feel it. I feel the right way to go. Everyone else in the unit just follows along because they can sense that that person has the intuition and has the gut instinct. And it doesn't matter who the ranking officer is. And this is in military, high functioning special forces. They trust the intuition of the training and their connection to their feelings. That everyone will say, okay, this person really is feeling it right now. They've got the confidence, and then the second someone else feels, okay, I've got it now from here, they all fall in line and follow that person because they're so connected to themselves and the moment and their intuition that it just becomes logical and instinctual to follow that.
Yes, and I like that concept that you bring, because it has a lot to do with what we talked the other day of communion. Okay, like that dissolution of one, of the separate parts, we dissolve to move como uno, as one.
Yeah.
We move as one. It's like that fish group. What's called?
Yeah, a school of fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that collective higher consciousness that leads us, and that's like the communion. It's like, yes, we are being led by something higher, and it doesn't matter so much of who I am or where I'm standing, as me. I'm like as long as the higher mission is accomplished.
Yeah. For the greater good.
Yes.
That's beautiful. And we were also talking about the rites of initiation and how to know when you become a master, and how a lot of the problems we have in our society are because of a lack of maturity. Even in adults, we have a lot of grown people that still have very immature behaviors, which repeat over and over again in their relationships and in our society. So I think you touched on how these initiatic cultures can show the maturity after you go through this rite of passage. You change your thinking from childish and immature to a mature person when you think of the needs of others other than more than yourself. And would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes. This capacity of, for example, there are these schools, these new schooling systems that train, for example, with the staff of command. So, okay, if you were to be the leader, I give you the staff. Lead us. So it's like, okay, we're going to have a quest that you lead us. So you exercise how it feels to be responsible for something bigger than yourself. Like, okay, you need to make things happen, and we follow your lead. And we don't have many of those things in the normal school, like, it's just listen and sink it in and try not to collaborate with anybody. So it's totally different.
Rules.
Yes.
Yeah, we're taught to, you do this, you go to class when the bell rings, you listen to your teacher, you take the test, you go to school, you get a job, you buy a house, and you follow all these rules that society tells you what to do, but we don't really get the chance to take on a role of leadership for ourselves. I mean, certain people feel the call to, but there's no initiation, there's no ritual for everyone to have that opportunity to feel what it's like to lead and to be in charge. I guess sometimes people just fall into that role when they become a parent, when they realize they're responsible for another life other than themselves, is when they bring another life into this world and they have no choice but to lead because you're responsible for this life.
Yes, exactly. That can be a physical, unavoidable act of initiation because it makes you responsible for the actions you make.
Yeah, definitely.
So I had many friends that they told me I am way better person. I am 80% of who I am now is because of having a child. It's like I was like nothing in comparison, like just don't care about anything before having a child. So that assuming taking on responsibility of what you do, of your behaviors, or what you declare to be, is a core point in this. The thing is that we right now are out of reference. What can be a rite of initiatic is more in the Celtic cultures was like, okay, there are these degrees for you to be the druid, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you had different trials, the rites of passage, like, okay, surviving in the forest, be buried, learn how to be inside of a tent that you do yourself, otherwise you will have a lot of cold and you will be like, you will have the consequences of that.
Yeah.
Like you feel it in there in the moment. What has been a rite of initiation for me in these times that we don't have much reference has been a declaration of who I am and acting accordingly.
Mm.
So, as we don't have an aspiration because maybe the lawyers, I don't want to be a lawyer, and I don't want to be an accountant. You know, those typical jobs that would be the aspirational, but the way of getting there, like university, is not, it doesn't prepare me to be that in this new world. It's like people, like even therapists, it's like, I did this, I have the graduation and everything, but I have been prepared to be a student of this,
Yeah.
not a practitioner of. So when they start doing the therapies, when they start doing the praxis, they start being.
Yeah.
So it's more focused on the praxis of doing what I declare myself to be.
Mm.
So I have one of my mentors here that invited me to the book, Joran Baltinester, that we did personal identity coaching,
Okay.
and I defined that personality of myself and start acting accordingly. So that would be a rite of passage that helps us a lot, and not only to see if we can be responsible of what we say and do, but to cut out all the distortion that is around. Because like, if we don't see the craziness, the delusion that is around, and the lack of reference that is around, we will be easily lost in there. And that's one of the main problems that has been caused the lack of.
And that's such an important part of developing yourself, your identity as a mature person, or as a man, a woman. It doesn't matter. Like just becoming a mature person, you need to know what matters to you.
It can become so micro because the speed of how things are happening are so hectic right now that we have to really go in the micro. So what would be like a maturation of the masculine force, of the masculine energy, is listening to what I say and do it. That itself is like people just say things because they are a way of saying things.
Yeah.
Or okay, I say anyway. I can just fail to my word. But listening and being up, as this has been a test. I will be there at 6. I will be there at 6. And then you start evaluating. Hey, I said this.
Mm-hmm.
Did it happen?
Yeah.
So like that can be like really in the micro. Like
Sure.
Like a mindfulness practice is what I'm saying it's happening. That would be like the certainty that the male energy is supposed to bring. It's like I said this and it will happen. So others can rely on you because
that builds authority and credibility. Doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
People are often surprised when you actually follow through on something you say you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I said I'm going to do it, so I did it, and that gives you credibility that you can be dependable and that you're an authority because what you say happens.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about, the archetypes of the mature masculine. This we have in Mankind Project, one of the movements, the men's circle movements, teach us the Carl Jung archetypes, and this archetype of the power of our world is the mature king. So we have the king that is realeza, the royalty. So the royalty is who has the capacity of making real. La realeza is who makes reality with their words. So what I say happens. That's what when you declare yourself a king is because I say it, it happens.
Yeah, it's all the same root of reality, of royalty. It all comes from the same root. Yeah.
Exactly. So if we have capacity to, also it's a prerequisite to be master of our reality.
Yeah.
If we have matured our king, we will have this capacity of blessing things, giving certainty, giving the safety that we are meant to. Otherwise, I have been living this because even I say in the book, the first sentence says, I've been raised as a prince.
Yes.
So the other archetype is Prince Charming. Prince Charming is the one who uses the words to charm and just, like, do the charming, it's so beautiful what you say, and you're saying things to entertain or to deceive or to make people in love, or like that Prince Charming, that mostly the feminine resonates a lot because it's like being a match for it. We have a lot of baggage of looking for the Prince Charming to come and save us. And he looks good, he talks beautiful and everything, but then it happens that maybe just a facade. As we were talking the other day, one of the roles of the masculine is proving that they are a competent, they are a good match, they are the best for the offspring of humanity. So that's an example of an archetype of mature and immature.
Yeah, we also dove into like what it means to be an alpha male, to be the most desirable, but that could be to be the most competent, the most stable for the female to rely on for protection or providing for the children, and it's by competency, and it's should be merit based.
Yes, and not only the female, also the children. This is one of the main things I wanted to say the other day, and I couldn't. Since we also have the children inside of us, the inner child, and also we have the inner girl and the inner boy inside. So it's like we are, in a way, parenting ourselves. So this self-parenting helps us to have a certain certainty, a sense of deep foundation of how my reality is built. So when we learn how to parent ourselves, our boy and our girl, we can rely on ourselves. That's self-accountability that if we have it in our side, in many spiritual lineages talks about the fusion of the masculine and the feminine within us. If we can hold the masculine and the feminine, the child energy too in there, we do not need to look for it outside. So we will stop looking for the compliments to fill me because I'm the half. In Spanish, we have the half orange, the half lemon. How is it here? Half orange? I am looking for my half orange.
Okay, yeah, we say we're looking for our other half.
Our other half. As if we were a half.
Yeah, as if we're incomplete.
Yeah,
But yeah, absolutely. And we become much more attractive once we are complete with ourselves. And two complete together is much more functional than two halves that need each other and are codependent.
Yes, yes. And I started the talk with the gift of synergy. When we are plus one and we make more than two, that's the base concept of synergy.
Yeah.
And that can happen in a even more than functional. It's like efficiency.
Yeah.
So we are helping the divinity. We are helping God, Source, the universe, to be efficient and show new ways of doing things better with the resources we have been given.
Absolutely.
So that's what
we're working together towards the same goal. We're more effective to collaborate when we have the same vision.
Yeah.
So you mentioned mankind and the men's circle as something you participated in the other night, and I think that's a great example of something practically that we can do now in our modern society, where we haven't had these rites of initiation, where we can work together to help grow our inner child and mature and find the healing and the responsibility that we're looking for. We can do the work ourselves. And you mentioned that the women's circles have been around for much longer. Women have been doing the work for a long time, trying to heal themselves and figure out what's important to them. But as men, these men's groups have only come to the forefront of, I guess, I don't necessarily want to use the word popularity, but people knowing about them has been fairly recent. So you mentioned mankind. I know every man is another one. And so that's something that people can do in their local community, is try to find a group of other people doing this work, trying to help each other to become more mature and really heal their past traumas to try to grow to be a mature adult in our modern society.
Yes, and this book is a perfect example of how that energy is working out.
Yes.
Because
Ignite Your Life for Men is the name of the book.
Yes, and we're men from 14 countries. Like, it's not just a local, that may be like kind of a type of culture. We have people from India, from South America, from different places, and from here. And this has been so fun because the publisher was chasing us. We were doing like the main and the parenting book together, and men finished. They had to be chased to be, hey, finish your story, finish the story. It's like, and the women, they are like doing the work and they finish on time and everything, and men were like escaping the vulnerability or like needing the mommy to come and hey, do the things. So that was like a big representation of how the consciousness of the masculine right now. And also the power of the vulnerability I have seen here, because we have these layers in between of testing each other, that loosening our armor, like this is like a nakedness of in our stories, like loosening our armor and declaring things that we may not declare in a circle of friends because of fear of judgment or bullying or like like a retaliation of any kind, like.
Yeah, I was blown away with how open you were in your chapter. Not to give anything away, but you shared some very personal details in a very public format, and you were very open and vulnerable, and that's very admirable. The story was, I read it so fast, I just flipped through your chapter very quickly because I was just compelled by it. It was resonant for me, and I really admire you opening up like that and sharing your story so publicly with such intimate detail.
Yeah, and I think that's the healing. That's the healing, and that's why we need the men's circles. That container, that safe space for the healing to happen.
Yeah.
And I've been talking right now with before coming here with a woman that is organizing Women's Circle for some years, and she's amazed by the effect of the container, and she's just putting a little effort, this 1 hour a week, and the effect of the evolution that each woman had because of this space is beyond, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's what I promote, what I like to promote, the men's circles, and also bringing some codes that makes it a safe space. Otherwise, it can be dysfunctional. I have seen many dysfunctional circles. There's like has the intent, but not the structure.
Yeah, there have to be rules in place to make sure that no one is dominating, no one is judging. I'm sure each of these men's groups have different rules, but they've got to be more or less the same guidelines that they've tested out over many iterations to know what's the most practical of the ways to keep everyone safe and able to open up and share without fear of being judged or someone using any of those personal details against them.
Yeah, and also the communicational abilities. That's the glue inside of ourselves that bonds us, our pieces together, bonds us together. Like even all the relationship coaches, every mediator will tell you communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Communication.
Yes,
And
it's saying how you feel, because we're not psychic. We can't guess what the other person is thinking. We can ask, we can hope they tell us the truth, but we have to be honest too and open with, this is what I think, this is what I feel, this is what I want, this is what I need. We have to,
that's an important part because that's the expression part.
Yeah.
We think that is communicating. That's expressing.
Ah.
And it's really different when we are talking and not being heard to. It's not about putting it out. Because we can be making noise. And we will be punished if we make noise.
Okay.
Like a man crying in public is disgusting.
Yeah.
And people don't want to see a man crying that cannot contain. It's like that's why the safe space needs to happen. So like there are things that alter because we are not receptive to it. So it's when we are received. That's why the communications tool set is super important. As also the respect for who's listening. Like there's a quote that I really loved in the men's circle, and I brought it to the circle here in New York, and they were laughing because here we have so much to express because we are with so much the pressure of the city and like about to explode and putting out the what's happening to me and like a liberation at the cost of others' attention.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a code that the leader or whoever, because we all can coordinate it, it's like a common code.
Yeah.
That is this. Whenever we are talking, and if you see me in any talk and I like overlap, speak, you can do this. That this means mercy. It's like mercy on us. Like mercy and respect for our listening, our time.
Yeah.
And that was a strong one, like mercy. It's like you can, and the other one is wrap up. Conclude your wrap up.
Okay. So this one is like, please start to think about the others in the circle, and then the wrap up is like, okay, you're not thinking about the others in the circle. Like, let's go.
Directed.
Yeah.
Directed.
It's
Like
much more direct.
there's like on the time wrap up, and this is mercy. Directly.
Yeah.
It's like mercy on us. Those were great codes, and also I think that also is a problem of the mitote, as the Toltec says. The Toltecs are the Nahuatl culture.
Mm-hmm.
About the mitote, the chit chatter that we have in our ego, that we are making opinions and judgments all the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the cross talk that happens is because I have an opinion or something about me that I want to say over what you just said.
Yeah.
And that disrupts the conversation, and we don't feel heard to because we are like,
we're not listening. We're waiting for our turn to talk.
exactly.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a big problem in modern communication. Yeah, everyone wants to be heard, but in order for everyone to be heard, we have to also respect and listen to other people as well. If we want them to listen to us,
Mm-hmm.
we have to be
Well,
respectful of their time. And
yes.
no, you have a point on this. Yeah,
Yes,
please go ahead.
yes,
Yeah.
and there, like, I was also reflecting today of how transactional it went. It's like, okay, I will listen to you because you will listen to me.
Mm.
That's also in there, like looking.
Yeah.
So I am listening to you because you will listen to me. It's like, there's also
Rather than for the greater good.
it's like that's another thing that's healthy. Is like, tell us your problem that you're think of your problem, connect with your main issue right now, because we always have one main issue that is taking like 70-80% of our energy in the moment. So we think about that and we say, okay, now I'll put your hands in the middle from 1 to 5. How much intensity it is for you right now? So you can put the number you want, and then you take the 5s, and then you really realize if what you are going on is more important, like I really need it,
Yeah.
or you get that dimension. Yeah. You get that dimension of the problem. That's also one of the steps of healing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Realize that however big your problems are, there's other people out there that have it way worse than you, and we have to empathize. And if they need that time to express themselves and get the healing, then we realize maybe our problems aren't that bad after all.
Yes, and also who plays out the problem is like, have you ever been to a family constellation?
No.
Well, family constellation is a dynamic that we use the field, acknowledging that whatever is happening to the main participant has something to do with us.
Mm.
So we, even that we are not there in the center doing the crying, the everything, we have something to be there. That's why we are part of it.
Yeah.
So we can have the healing in ourselves, or the extracts and the tools we need, the insights, for our case, even that the other put the will to do the healing himself.
I was in an event a few weeks ago that we broke out from a larger group into smaller circles, and one of the key rules of the smaller groups was no one is there to give advice, because none of us are professional psychologists or any proposed expert. We're all there to listen and be there to support, but it's not our place to offer advice.
Yes.
Because that contaminates the safety of the space.
Exactly.
We can all give our opinion, but that's not what we're there for. People are not sharing for your opinion.
Yeah. Yes, that's part of the mitote, that chit chatter that we put on opinion and contaminate it. That's why in the men's circle, that a code that I've seen really healthy too, even that I'm a consultant, and I can have great insights as a coach and studying a lot of psychology, you have to withhold it.
Because that's not what you're there for in that moment.
You are not what you're there for at that moment, first. And second, if you are a consultant and have that authority, that's one of our codes in the lineage of channelers, that we are giving a lot of authority because we have a lot of responsibility in the channeling.
Mm-hmm.
So this code talks about the surgery that it means to give advice. There was a consultant that told me, we are doing a brain surgery. That's, if someone gives you the authority to advise, you're doing a brain surgery, because you can shape the perception of the reality because of that container. So that's why we are really, really careful.
Yeah, that gives it a whole other level of gravity, of seriousness. Yeah.
Totally. And that's how I take my job, is like correspondence. We have many filters to check, clear the biases, the psychological biases, the personal issues that we may have, or judgments. Is we train a lot of that in our channel. And the container with the the intention of the person and intention and permission of the person.
Mm.
So in the men's dynamic, in the men's circle dynamic, we whenever someone wants a counsel, advice,
Mm-hmm.
we make a counsel. And in fact, in Spanish it's easier because it's consejo. I want a consejo, so we make a consejo.
Mm.
Advice and counsel is the same word.
Yeah.
So we, bring up all the facts.
Mm.
So what happened? Not what we are
Not
clear
what's
in
your
this
story
emotion.
about what happened, but
Yes,
what
yes,
actually
yes.
happened.
What, tell us the facts.
Yes.
And we start doing that decodification, and then we do a counsel, and then we propose a dynamic that is physical. It's not just words. We embody. You have to push through.
Mm-hmm.
You have to bury what you have to bury. You have to claim back what you have to claim back.
Yeah.
It's so experiential for everybody. So we embody it, and that's a deeper dialing in of the wisdom of the group, and we favor deeper from being there.
That's a very, very deep and effective way to do it. Yeah, I don't have as much experience with men's circles. I've done a few of them, but I don't have a regular practice. But could be something to really explore.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other topics that you wanted to get into before we wrap this up? Any other points that we wanted to go a little deeper on?
Yes, mainly the highlight that I wanted to bring the talk the other day, that maybe gets lost by all these kind of issues, the problems we had, and how the dynamics work. To get us out of that is declaring what is sacred.
Oh, yes.
Because that's why I separated the divinity, the masculine, and the feminine. To declare what is divinity for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens, in example we did of having a children. And
Yes.
even today I heard Prince Harry talking about how he could die for that little creature. You know, like, it goes the ego of being a prince or whatever, die for something
More than yourself.
more than yourself.
Yeah.
So, first I'd like to declare the children as sacred, because that's the fruits, that's our creation of the integration of whatever problem we may have had. That's a living representation of the union that once was.
Mm.
Compiling and integrating all the parts of us are in there. So that I believe that declaring the children sacred naturally happens.
Yes.
And either way, because of the lack of responsibility and the lack of capacity of declaring them sacred, there's a lot of abandonment, absent parents. In any way, can be because of alcohol, because of emotional absency. I am busy.
Could be because of death, or because they work all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There are many problems that we are dealing with because of that. I see it in my healing practices. Those core wounds that we are dealing now are to be addressed, and putting children as sacred, and also this willingness to sacrifice ourselves. That's the sacrificio. Make something sacred. Sacrifice. I am making something sacred.
Yeah.
Sacrificto. That's the etymology as well. So.
Especially for your children, you're sacrificing something for your children, for something that's greater than you. So that's a perfect example of making something sacred by sacrificing for it.
And also the relationship, declaring it sacred, because that's also what breaks the Trinity. Like, that breaks the duality into a Trinity.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not you, it's me, it's not for me, it's for our relationship.
Yes.
So we do and I really love this because it's like I also got my ego in there. If the ego is looking for happiness, right?
Yeah.
The ego is like looking to be happy and I'm looking for pleasure. So there's a study on Harvard that is a study of happiness that shows that the most correlated factor of happiness is the quality of our relationships.
Oh, okay.
0.7, 70% of our happiness is due to the quality of our relationships.
Wow.
So if we bring the awareness into that, what quality of relationships I'm having, I have 70% of the 70% of the happiness ensured. So
that should make you think, okay, maybe I should put more energy into my relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put more thought into it, definitely.
Yes. So that's a thing that I wanted to bring, that is not because he and he did that and she is that way. It's like how I am treating this relationship, who I am being. Am I this virtuous person that I declare that I was when I connected with myself and when I put myself in the relationship? How this mirror, this catalyst for self-development is working there. So I like to declare relationships as sacred and the product of our relationships as sacred. So that gets us out of our ego and
it's something bigger than ourselves, something more than ourselves that we place a greater importance on. And that's a huge step in maturity.
Yeah.
Because the immature person we talked about puts their own needs first. How they feel, what they think, that's the most important thing. But to be mature, a clear rite of passage in that is to recognize the importance of something greater than yourself.
Yes, yes. And I have an access, a reminder, because we can get really trapped in this labyrinth and the prison that I'm telling in the book. So I do the channelings, like the Akashic records are my access to this higher view. So that's a way I use, and also to use this playground that I consider we are into, like playing the matrix.
Yeah.
I like to apply the wisdom to challenge myself, like, for example, detecting the sphinxes. I really love the concept of the sphinxes.
And to elaborate for those watching, a sphinx, in the way you described it, is someone who's there to question you and challenge you, to make you prove yourself worthy of getting past.
Yes, the sphinx technically is what is protecting the sacred. So it's protecting the treasure. The function, the role of the sphinx as protecting what is sacred.
Yes.
And this understanding that we may have as the savior, the Prince Charming that has to kill the dragon and get the treasure that is the princess. It's like it was like an object for us to win, like that wiring is in there. Like okay, we gain the object that is the treasure that we were. We can up-level it as we see in the magician's map that I'm going to upload here also in the channel, the channel of LaFam. The magician's map talks about not only understanding the sphinx, that would be the bodyguard at the door, coming in, mastering that new state, that new attainment, and having the sphinx in your favor. So now it works on your side. So that's another way of viewing it.
Well, you've proven yourself worthy. You have to complete the test.
Yes, and also you have it as an ally. It's not only overcoming it, but also having it as an ally.
Yeah.
So that's what we work a lot in, detecting the sphinx to not prevent me from passing the tests, and then we are really mastering that. That's the step, the final step when you are a master, that the sphinx is protecting the sacred realm that you are inhabiting.
I have one more question that I would like to ask you. You briefly mentioned that you do channeling and you're considered a master Akashic Records reader. Can you please tell our friends out there a little bit more about what the Akashic Records are, just in case they don't know?
Yes, the Akashic Records are known as the library of the universal knowledge. Also, as this knowledge is living knowledge, we conceptualize it as the tree of life. The tree of life. So we tune into this flow of information, and it's in the Akasha, as the ethers or many cultures know it, is the subtle substance that is flowing through us all. It's everywhere and in the invisible air inside of us. So there's a network of this Akasha bonding us together. We have to understand this, there's a great film director that I admire a lot and I have the honor to work with. The film is Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds. The first part talks about the Akasha.
Okay.
So that's a better understanding of what's the Akasha. The records is our structural organization for them to make it useful and download the information. And the use of them, why we have been using it since the existence of this and other civilizations. The problem is that they are not used consciously many times. And even in my initiation, my first initiation in the records, I was shown many lives and formats and personas that I have been that were misusing them. And I was being burned, and they showed me, okay, we're granting you access again.
So you can learn from the mistakes in your past lives.
Yes, like learn that you used them wrongly once. So that's why we up leveled the moral code, and that's why our lineage now has that as foundation, the moral code, to understand how to use it and not first make a mess, disorder them, because there are intuitive reader or channelers that are making a mess of them, because the quantum dynamics also work in there, of the quality of the channel that access alters the theme. So we are usually, sometimes before starting, we are correcting and bringing that back to order things. Always with, it's not ourselves, we have the bookkeepers that will be the guides, masters, and loved ones of ourselves and the person that work in a council to decode them in a useful way in the now. So we don't get out like many people come to the session saying, like, what will happen? We think confounding this as a divination. It's like we can talk about all the times, like timelines of past, present, future. Everything is there. What is brought in order that is also useful and what we can process.
Now. Yes, what we can process now.
That's what comes. So that's the use of Akashic Records and what they are in simple words.
That's super interesting, and I would love to learn more about that, but that's an entire discussion in video on its own, probably many.
Yeah, I've been doing talks on this,
Yeah, wonderful. And is that material available on the LaFam channel as well?
Yes, there's an open talk in Akashic Records. In my Facebook, I've live streamed them, and they're coming more. Sometimes I do clips because I know that it's kind of too much to see 90 minutes, but if you are deep into it, you're invited to watch them in the channel or in the Facebook.
Yes. That's wonderful, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this discussion today. And you can find all of those other talks and all the links will be in the description.
Yes. Thank you for your attention. Watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.